If you're a law firm owner like me and you first get to work and you walk in your office and you're bombarded by questions and problems, do you like that? Do you like being bombarded by problems when you first walk in the door? If you don't, then, and you want to change that, tune in and find out how.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. I'm Greg McCollum. In today's podcast, what we're going to talk about is the topic is cluster your problems. So what do I mean by that? When you cluster your problems, and you do this by using a calendar, then you cluster your problems and your decisions. And so it gives you back your time, it gives you back your day. It makes walking into your office so much more pleasant. When I walk into my office, it's like everybody's humming along, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. I walk by the receptionist, I maybe give her a little wave, and that's that. Then I go to my office, I plug in my laptop, make sure it's charged, I sit down, and I calmly get to work. And what doesn't happen is no one says anything to me. They rarely even say hi, but they don't. That's not because they're mad at me, and it's not because I'm mad at them. It's because they're working, they're concentrating. I'm not interrupting them. They're not interrupting me. And if they need to speak to me, they can always speak to me. And sometimes I'll get some questions. So it's not, it's not a complete ban, but it's a culture. And it wasn't always like that. For years, I left the DA's office in, what was it, like the very end of 1993. And I continued working as a special prosecutor for a couple of years doing DUI cases as a kind of like golden parachute, where basically when I left the DA's office, my boss needed somebody to set up this centralized DUI court. Nobody wanted to do it because for all of us, felony trial lawyers, all of us felony prosecutors, we all look down on the summary court. We all look down on the magistrate's court. Everybody saw going to magistrate's court as a demotion, like that's going backwards. That's not going up. Everybody wanted to be moving up and handling more and more serious felony cases, trying more serious cases and murder cases and homicides and that sort of thing. That's what that was the trajectory. That's what everyone wanted. Well, once it was time for me to leave, because I had done all of that already, and so I want to go open my office in private practice. And so since nobody would wanted to do that, my boss was kind of at a loss, because the county council where we lived, and also all of the magistrates and the chief magistrate and those people, they came to my boss and they said, look, our summary court system is a mess. It's a disorganized mess. The police officers prosecute their own cases. The highway patrol and the county officers would prosecute the DUIs themselves. So you have non-lawyers in there trying these important cases, these DUIs mostly, but also whatever it was, assault, domestic violence. And one of the things that happened is the judges would not hold the officers accountable in terms of the docket. And so cases weren't moving. It was a backlog. I think we had something like 12 or 14 magistrate offices, because the county, Horry County, where Myrtle Beach is one of the largest counties in they say east of the Mississippi. The county is the size, they say, of Rhode Island. So there's a lot of territory. And so if you're a lawyer, you could have a case or multiple cases in all these different, jurisdictions that are really a long way from each other. It'd be 15 or 20 miles away in the same county, maybe even farther. And so anyway, it was a mess. And so my boss was trying to fix it. So he's trying to find somebody to move, down to magistrate's court to handle it. I was in the process of leaving. So I said, look, I'll do it, but I don't want to keep working here necessarily. I want to go open my law firm. So will you let me do it part-time on a contract? And so that's what happened. That worked out fantastically because I basically, and I didn't even expect this, but that's another story. I basically left my job and still got paid the same amount. It was just on a 1099. So it was a good way for me to go start because I had guaranteed income. And so I was able to leave my job and make the same money and not have to work really that much. So they dumped 600 files on me to start cleaning that up. And over the course of really less than 2 years, I cleaned it up and I got it going. And there was a lot of resistance and things like that. But, it's going to this day the way I set it up. So that was where I was with that. So I'm going out in private practice now. And once I hired some people and got my practice going, I would be driving to work in the morning and I'm thinking, because, when you go drive, if you're like me, then you get some thoughts, your brain clears. It's like your best ideas are in the shower. There's a reason for that because you're going into, you're getting out of your problems and you're in a different mindset. Anytime I go out and get in my car and start driving, immediately start having better ideas and things that, come with clarity. So this is me driving to work. I'm going to work, the birds are chirping. I'm thinking about the things I want to implement, things that I want to work on. And then I walk in the door and everybody wants a piece of me. Everybody's questioning me. Everybody's hurling problems at me and wanting answers before the door's even closed. So I still have things in my head. I still have things in my hand. I haven't even had a chance to, set something down. I haven't made it to my desk yet. And it's like one of those sitcoms or something when the busy, important person walks in and everybody's, chasing him with questions. That's the way it was for me for years, maybe decades. And it was not good because now I'm in the whirlwind, and this happened every single day. This client's not happy. This client called. This person doesn't know when their court date is. This person wants to know if you're going to be there on this and such date. The DA, assistant DA called, and they wanted you to get back to them on this case. Client's mother called back and wants an update on the file. So now I've got 7 things hurled at me before I even get to my desk. So that disrupts everything. And so the net effect of that is now that's my life, and that's the way I live. And so it's not the best way to go to work, and it didn't move me anywhere. In fact, when I practiced, for a decade and a half, maybe longer, I was just stuck in the same place. I was on the same hamster wheel, and because I didn't know that there was a different way to do it. I thought lawyers were busy, and I thought that I was important, and I thought that's the way it is. Well, that's not the way it is. That's the way it was. And if your life is like that, there's a couple of things that you can do to change that. And I'm calling it use your calendar to cluster your problems. Use your calendar to cluster your problems. And part of this is just setting some boundaries. And if you have no boundaries, then somebody's not going to respect your boundaries because they don't know what your boundaries are. And perhaps you don't even know what your boundaries are. You just know you're aggravated and this is frustrating. And then you go to this default of saying, well, that's part of being a lawyer. So that after a while you think, I hate being a lawyer because being a lawyer is stressful and time consuming and it sucks. Okay. And my entire life, my entire career, I heard older lawyers talking about this and saying, if you only had one case, you could enjoy being a lawyer, or practicing law would be okay if I didn't have to run an office. And I felt like that for a long time, and I always defaulted and thought, I'm a terrible business person. I'm not a good personnel manager. I'm not a good manager of people, but I'm a good lawyer. If I could just eliminate all of that other stuff. But I didn't eliminate it, I fixed it. And once I fixed it and used leverage and other people to fix it and systems, then my life changed. So now I just do the things that I want to do. So in terms of, in your situation, if you're like that, part of the, and I made a note here. What this reminded me of a song by the Pretenders with Chrissie Hynde. And this is the way it was for me. The lyric, which I always loved, is I can't get from the cab to the curb without some little jerk on my back. I can't get from the cab to the curb without some little jerk on my back. I can't get out of a taxi and get to the door without being accosted. So the people accosting me, they weren't little jerks. They were people that worked for me, and they weren't people I disliked. And their intentions were good. But I was the bottleneck. I was the chokehold. You know, they're sitting there, and they're trying to do their job, but because they don't have guidance, because they don't have standard operating procedures, because they haven't been giving any leeway or trust or latitude or training on how to do their job, they're frozen. And the reason they're frozen is my fault, because I didn't give them guidance and trust and teach them the parameters of what they're supposed to be doing. So I was the bottleneck. If this happens to you, then you're the bottleneck. So and I call this is the whirlwind. When you walk in it, and it's not, I didn't make that word up. Other people use it in business books and growth books that I've read, but the whirlwind. So you go into the whirlwind, and then everything freezes, everything stops you. And if you're in the whirlwind, you know, Monday through Friday, week after week, year after year, that's where you live. No progress is made. I had built a law practice by default where we just reacted to things. We had no intentionality. We didn't do anything intentionally because I didn't have leverage and systems to do that. So how did I change that? Now, I want to say I got a calendar, but obviously I had calendars. I always had a calendar. But I did it with a calendar with people who assist me, people who work for me. I call them helpers and doers. And as I've created these systems, I got more doers and more leverage, and those things work. So I'll give you an example. Just recently, we had a personnel issue where I had to meet with an employee and make some decisions, and it involved her performance and what happened. And so, you know, this is not pleasant. Like if I have to go in and terminate somebody, it's not pleasant. Okay. It's not something that I like to do. And I don't think really, unless somebody's sadistic, I don't think anybody likes to do it. And so it's also something that people put off and don't do because it's so unpleasant. So, you know, I don't put it off, but I also don't go do it that minute. I do it on my schedule with my calendar. So what happened in that particular case is me and Kelly, my law firm administrator, we met with her. We had it laid out what we're going to talk to her about and the issues that we were having. And this is very unsettling for her. And so at the end of the meeting, because I'm not going to hash it all out right there. This is on a Monday. I'm not going to hash it all out in that meeting. We're not going to like an emotional place. So, but I told her, you know, you're a valued employee, you're a superstar. Once you had time to digest this, then if you want to talk about it, set a meeting. And the other part of this was Monday. I was going to, I think, Charlotte. Well, where I was going really doesn't matter, but this was Monday. Because of my calendar, I don't go into the office on Tuesday because I do other things. I don't go into the office on Wednesday. And I normally go in the office on Thursday, but I wasn't going to be there on Thursday because I was traveling to Charlotte for some stuff. So I was going to be back in on Friday. So I meet with her on Monday. We go over all the unpleasant things and what we expect to happen and expect for things to change. And so when I tell her, I said, listen, if you once you've had a chance to digest this and process it, if you want to talk to me about it, I'll be back on Friday. So everybody sees the calendar, and all they have to do is ask Taylor to put something on the calendar. They can schedule meetings with me anytime there's any free space. And even though I'm only working 3 half days in the office, there's still space in that calendar where they can set up a meeting for me, set up a meeting if they think there's somebody outside the office, like a vendor or somebody that needs to talk to me, or schedule a call. So that's what I said. Now, I didn't even check the calendar to see what was going on, because I'm out of the office. I've got other things I'm working on. I'll be back in the office on Friday. When I go in Friday, if I look at the calendar and I see that she scheduled a meeting, then I know it's on there. I'm going to be there. I'm there for these reasons, so it's fine. So what happens? I go do my thing, and then the week goes through. So we go through the week. So she's working, and then I get back to the office. And so on Friday morning, we have what we call a morning huddle or a stand up, and we do it every morning from 8:45 to 9 o'clock. And in that huddle, what we do is somebody runs the huddle. I don't run it, and I'm not in the huddle. It happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like clockwork. And everybody is in the meeting, either sitting there, standing there, or on the phone calling in. So most of the time the lawyers are driving to court or something like that, so they're on the phone. So this is a very important part of running my law firm, because what's the most important thing we have to cover? It's court. We're in court all the time. We cannot miss court. Everybody needs to know what's going on. So what we do in that morning huddle is Taylor, who's in charge of the huddle, she's got the calendar. We've got it on this huge flat screen TV I put up. So there's the calendar in living color on a 55 or 65 inch flat screen. We're all in the room looking at it, and she's going through the calendar, and we know where every lawyer's going to be. We know where every client's going to be. We know what time that's going to happen. So that happens without me on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I do go in the office in the morning on Friday, and so I attend the huddle. So I was gone, I come back, and so then I'm in the morning huddle. Now, I walked in the office, and I walked past my employees and my team members, and I walked past the person that I'd met with Monday. She's in the room. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't say, I have to talk to you. She doesn't say that thing we talked about so important. I got a question. When the huddle's over, can I come and meet with you? There's some things I want to go over that are very important. She didn't say anything. So we had the morning huddle. Everything was pleasant. Everything was working. And then I go in my office and I pull up my calendar, because now it's about 9 o'clock, and I'm just going to see there's some meetings that are scheduled every Friday, but I also have that white space. So I'll pull up the calendar, and there it is. I'm meeting with her at 11 a.m. Perfect. I've clustered my problems. I've used the calendar to keep me from having those interruptions. I've protected myself and them from us having these impromptu question and answer sessions. Plus, at that time, we're in the office. It's a private meeting. She and I are talking. We're not being interrupted. No one's knocking on the door. No one's coming inside. No one needs me or her, because everybody else knows what to do. Everybody's respecting the sanctity of that meeting. The phone doesn't even ring in my office because I turned the ringer off, years ago. So my phone doesn't ring. It doesn't have a ringer because I'm not going to answer it. So why should I hear it ring? Okay. Plus all my notifications for everything are completely off. So we have that focus time. We have a good discussion. And if I have to make a decision there, I'm in the space really not to make the decision there. I wouldn't make a decision. And when I'm talking to my team members like that, I tell them, okay, let me think about it. Because then what I'm going to do is one of my other regularly scheduled meetings where I cluster the problems and issues with my firm administrator, Kelly, I'm going to bounce things off of her. But even when I've got the whole team with me, I tell them these are some thoughts I have, and I ask them what their thoughts are. So I'm not going to make a decision in the moment. I never make a decision in the moment. I always reflect on it and get some feedback. So my timeline for making a decision is probably going to be a few days. It could be a few weeks. Now, I don't procrastinate those decisions, but I don't make the decision until I think I have the correct information and I've got the right mindset to make a good decision. I don't make snap decisions, because when I do, when I go back and look at it later, I go, I can't believe I said that. That was a terrible decision. So how does this work for you? Set up times for both regular meetings, like we have a sales team meeting every week. I'm involved in the case management meeting. They call it the litigation meeting. I'm getting ready to inject myself into the client care meeting because it's not being done on a regular basis. So I'm going to step in there and get that set up the same way I did with the litigation meeting, because it wasn't being done because the lawyer I assigned it to was basically failing at getting everybody together and having a meeting. It was always getting pushed aside. So I stepped in. Then I got another lawyer in my office who I thought was better suited to run the meeting. I ran the next couple of meetings. Now he runs all those meetings like clockworks, and those meetings are so much better. So I will do the same thing with a client care meeting. These are weekly meetings needed for us to move forward. So you've got your regularly scheduled meetings on your calendar, and then you've got appointments where somebody needs to talk to you. I haven't taken an unsolicited phone call now for years. Everything is scheduled. When you do that, you can eliminate some of the chaos and eventually eliminate really all of the chaos, because that's what I've done. So thanks for listening. I'm Greg McCollum. My company's Prosper at Law. We coach lawyers, and we have mastermind meetings as well. If you're interested in any of that stuff, go to prosperatlaw.com. Thanks for listening.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.